in the last part of chapter 12 of the Gospel of Mark, verses 38 to 44, Jesus poses before us two attitudes through two individuals. One is a group, and the group of the religious leaders who wanted to be seen doing good. So these religious leaders are in the temple, and even though these religious leaders put large sums of money into the temple treasury, they put it in ostentation. They put it through showing off. They put it making sure that everyone around them sees how much they are putting. And Jesus says, while externally their action seems very impressive, externally their action seems to be very generous, inside there is no generosity at all. And even though people are often impressed by the externals, God is impressed by what goes on within. And so on the other extreme is a widow. Widows and orphans at the time of Jesus were a very sad group, because the widow would have no husband to defend her in case of any kind of challenge. They were looked down upon. They were looked down upon because they had no support whatever, and so they were often exploited along with orphans. And this widow, who has no means of support, is being forced by the obligation, by what the religious leaders say, to put into the temple treasury even the nothing that she has. So Jesus does not so much commend the widow, as he berates the religious leaders for reducing the widow to such a state that they, in their interpretation of religion, have told the widow that she must give, and she has nothing to give, and yet because she is plagued with guilt, and yet because she is pressurized by the externals, she has to put into the temple treasury even the nothing that she has. And so Jesus appreciates and admires the widow, but even as he does this, he looks at the religious leaders and asks them if they can change their ways. Very often, our external actions might be beautiful and good, but what is more important is the internal attitude. The German mystic Meister Eckhart says very beautifully, you should bother less about what you ought to do and think more about what you ought to be. Because if your being were good, your works would shine forth brightly. Will you ensure that your being is good so your works can shine forth brightly?